over the last 18 months or so, there's been a lot of optimism and excitement over how artificial intelligence, AI, can help all of us in our day-to-day lives. And because of that, as a financial advisor, I'm occasionally asked, hey, Azul, can artificial intelligence do a financial plan for me? Can it help me better prepare for retirement? And so today's video, I'm going to go over a prompt that I put in AI and share my thoughts on whether artificial intelligence can help you better prepare for retirement. Let's go for a walk in this beautiful location and let's talk about it. So the prompt that I gave artificial intelligence is one that I talk on this channel about a lot, which is, I'm 55 years old, I've got $1 million saved, and the question I asked AI is, can I retire? And you know what? The response it gave me I thought was good, but let's see if it's sufficient in order to help you retire. So the answer it gave me is not going to surprise you. It's the same answer that a financial advisor is going to initially give you if you ask a question like that. And that answer is, can you retire? Well, it depends. It depends on a lot of factors. And let's talk about the 6 factors that ChatGPT said that it depends on. The first one is, you've got $1 million, you're 55 years old, you want to retire. We all know that the answer to that question is, yes, you can retire, but it depends on what type of retirement that you want to have. And ChatGPT captures that in its response. It shares 6 factors that it wants you to think about as you think about whether you can retire with $1 million at 55. And the first thing it asks you to think about is, what does your lifestyle look like? What do your expenses look like? Right? Somebody that wants to spend $40,000 a year has quite a different answer to that question than somebody that wants to spend $250,000 a year. So the first issue that ChatGPT wants you to look at, I think, is right on, which is what your lifestyle and expenses look like. Again, it gives 6 things that it wants you to think about. The second one is, what's the expected duration, the length of your retirement? In other words, how long do you expect to live? Are you healthy? Does your family have longevity associated with it? Are we talking about 25 years in retirement? Are we talking about 50 years of retirement? And obviously that's a factor. Many of us have heard of the 4% rule, which says that over a 30-year period, you can safely expect to be able to spend about 4% a year off of your retirement assets, assuming that it's invested 60% in stocks, primarily U.S. large cap stocks is what the study in the past has been done, and 40% in intermediate U.S. treasuries. Now again, that looks at backward-looking data, so you want to be careful using a rule of thumb, but can you use that as you're saving for retirement and getting a feel for how are you doing? Are you getting close to the amount of money that you need, or are you far from that and do you need to make some adjustments? So I think the 4% rule is useful for that. AI didn't go into that for me. It just went into and asked about expected length of retirement. Again, 25 years of retirement is much different than 50 years. And for a 55-year-old, most 55-year-olds are going to have much longer than 25 years in retirement. None of us know, but that's the second factor. The third one is it asks, how's your money invested? One of the things that I say is there's 3 rules to preparing for retirement. The first is, I don't care how much money you earn, you have to spend less than what you earn. And folks think that this is just obvious, but the reality is over half of Americans making over $100,000 a year don't save a dime. So you have to save, but it's not enough to save. We also have to invest, and that's what this third question from ChatGPT is alluding to. And not only do we have to invest, but we have to shoot to beat inflation over time. It's been said that compounding on our investments is the 8th wonder of the world. But remember, compounding works both ways. If you're beating inflation, your money each year is working harder for you and continues to grow, and that balance becomes more and more powerful every year. But if you're not beating inflation, if you're doing worse than inflation, compounding is actually working against you. Each year it becomes harder and harder for your money to work for you because your purchasing power is decreasing. So as uncomfortable as it might feel, it's important that we strive to beat inflation. So that was the third factor. The fourth factor is, do you have any additional income sources? Do you have rental properties? Maybe. Do you have a business that you're a co-owner in? Do you have rental properties that might be bringing in an income? Do you have a pension coming in? Those are kind of the common ones. So again, that's factor 4 that ChatGPT mentions. Chapter 5 is it talks about the inflation and the economic factors, and I think that's an important one because again, beating inflation is important. In periods of high inflation, it can be harder to make progress towards your goals. In periods of difficult economic times, it can be harder for our investments to do well for us. So that's a good factor. That's factor 5 that ChatGPT mentions. Factor number 6 is, what are your financial goals? So it's one thing to be 55 years old and say, I just want to enjoy my life. I want to live overseas. I want to have adventures. It's one thing for that to be your goal. It's another thing to say, I want to buy an expensive house. I want to drive expensive cars. I want to leave a big inheritance to people that I love. Those are very different strategies. And so it depends on what your financial goals are. So those are the 6 factors, but stick with me because I want to share where I think we're at with artificial intelligence. So is that reply from ChatGPT, is that sufficient for you to decide, if you're 55 years old, if you're 65, whatever you put into ChatGPT, is it giving you an answer that's going to be helpful to you? The short reply for me is, it's giving you an answer that's helpful, but I certainly won't want to retire based on that. So we're moving in the right direction. It's a useful tool, but we're not where we want to be. I should mention that ChatGPT closes its reply saying it thinks it's wise to consult a financial advisor that can tailor the financial plan to your needs and to help you determine if retiring now is feasible, and can also tailor the financial plans to your specific situation. So I like that it mentions that, not because I'm a financial advisor, right? There's probably 90% of the world is never going to use a financial advisor. For many folks, they're going to try to answer this question themselves, and I think most of my financial advising peers want you to have as good of information to make an important decision like that as possible. And I compare it to tax planning software. Tax planning software has been available now for the better part of a quarter of a century, probably longer. I still use a CPA because I want an expert doing it. I want somebody that I can share, here's what my goals are, here's what I'd like to achieve. Obviously, I want my taxes done right, but I also want somebody that can help me think through things strategically. And it's the same thing with a financial advisor, except right now we don't have the equivalent of the tax planning software. In some ways, there are tax planning software out there. It tends to be a little more difficult to use, particularly as you're getting close. I think the retirement planning software now is good as we're still 5, 7, 10 years out, and directionally are we okay? But is it going to give you that confidence, that sleep at night factor that can be so important? I don't think we're there in many regards for that confidence, that sleep at night, and ease of use. And my hope is that AI will continue to help us with that, and continue to help you, and continue to help the broader community answer these important questions for ourselves. Do I have enough money to retire? What are the trade-offs that I'm going to make if I retire now versus if I work 5 more years? What does it look like if I spend, just to make up a number, $5,000 a month instead of $6,000 a month? How do I think about that? What does it look like if I'm invested 70% in the stock market versus 50% in the stock market? What kind of volatility has a portfolio had in the past? And, you know, am I likely to be able to stay the course on that? These are all things that right now humans have a big advantage on. One of the things a financial advisor, done well, it's a very close relationship with your financial advisor. They understand who you are as a person. So are we there yet? We're not. Do I think we'll get there in the next couple of years? You know, Bill Gates is credited with saying that we overestimate the impact of technology over the next 2 or 3 years, but as humans, we underestimate the impact of technology over a longer period of time, 7 to 10 years. And I suspect that's going to be the same with artificial intelligence. I think many of us are expecting a lot from it right now. I think it's good. I think it's helpful. And I think over 5 to 7 years, we might be surprised at how powerful it becomes. I do think for my peers in the industry, for all of us, it's going to allow us to do our jobs better, faster, with less time, be able to take some of the mundane tasks off of our plate, which I'm looking forward to, and I think we're very close to artificial intelligence helping with that. Are we to the point where the average retail investor, the average person who has expertise in their area but is not an expert in retirement planning, are we at the point where they will be able to get the answer to what they want on an important question like retirement? We're certainly not there yet, in my opinion. I think we'll have some tools that'll help out folks like myself. And then after that, I think we'll have some tools that will help you. And one of the things that can help you as you think about retirement is having an understanding of how do you compare to others. And that's why I made this video here, average income in retirement for US citizens. So thanks for watching today's video, and I'll see you in this one. Bye-bye.